Hey everyone, I'm Natalie Bencivenga, host of 5 Minutes With. And this week I have the honor of having two very special guests with me, Miss Dannielle Brown and Julius Boatwright. Thank you so much for being here. And, there's been a lot of news the past 8 months, 10 months, 12 months around police brutality in particular. And that was really what amplified and sort of sparked the Black Lives Matter movement that heated up this summer. But sometimes I think we forget that these movements actually involve real people, and these people have real stories. And Ms. Dannielle, I'd really love it if you could share with the Alone Together audience a little bit about your story and journey as it pertains to social justice.
All right, thank you for having me. My story centers around having a beautiful son who I sent to college to get an education, and unfortunate events that involve law enforcement made it that my son returned to me in a casket. And so it's not a movement that I went looking for. It's a movement that called me. Mm-hmm. And my son leaving this earth at the hands of 4 people in a college dorm room, no body cameras, their narrative against my son's narrative, and the events of how he went out of 16th floor window by picking up a chair, hitting the window, putting the chair back down, and going out the window. And 4 people in that room, adults, professionals, could not keep my son safe. So, of course, this mother would pick up a rocking chair, leave her home in Washington, D.C., in search of answers here in Pittsburgh, which led me to Freedom Corner, which led me to taking up part-time residence here in Pittsburgh, which led me to meeting Julius Boatwright and Still Smiles, which led me to the podcast. And that's how I came. Moving to the movement.
Welcome to
the movement was always there.
Right. And you've also been on a hunger strike as well. Yeah. And that's going on 117 days, which I've read might be the longest anyone's ever, that it's been recorded that's ever done that. Can you talk a little bit about why you decided to do that and the commitment that you feel to doing that?
I kind of find myself in these situations. Mm-hmm. I was heading to Pittsburgh. I stopped to get something to eat because I realized I didn't eat I couldn't remember when the last time I ate. So it had to be maybe more than 24 hours. I get a slice of pizza. I take a bite of it and I couldn't swallow it. Mm-hmm. So I threw it away. And it was at that moment that I said, I understand. I hungered for justice. And that was day 1, 4th of July, of me embarking on this hunger strike. Because what led me to Pittsburgh was the fact that I couldn't breathe. When I saw that video of George Floyd with the knee on the neck, it symbolized how I felt for the last almost 2 years before I decided to come to Pittsburgh. I literally felt suffocating because I didn't know what happened to my child. So the moment I did something, hopped in that car, the moment I threw that pizza away, the moment I sat outside for 2 days and didn't let anyone know I was there, rocking in a chair, trying to understand my why and my reason for being in Pittsburgh, what it is that I was hoping to get, that's when 3 demands were birthed. I'm sure you heard of those 3 demands. Mm-hmm. First demand was access to conduct an independent investigation without any stipulations. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have same access to information as the school reported having done an independent investigation. Let's reciprocity the information. The second one was body cameras. I was not going to leave Pittsburgh until I made sure that university equipped their officers with body cameras, so it can no longer be another mother in the situation I was in, where it's their narrative against my deceased son. And then, of course, the third one centered around crisis intervention training. How fit were these officers? You know, did they have mental health crisis intervention de-escalation skills? I needed to understand that.
And Julius, when you heard of Miss Dannielle's story, I'm sure being a mental health professional yourself, this probably rang very true and sort of created this web, in a sense, of all of the other cases that are going on in the country around the Black Lives Matter movement, and this collective grief, this collective pain. And from a mental health perspective, what were you feeling and thinking when you had heard about Miss Dannielle?
Well, first off, I was really anxious. There were a lot of people who reached out who said, "Have you had a chance to speak with Miss Dannielle?" And I hadn't, because I wanted to be really mindful about where she was and her experience and her grieving process. And the moment that we spoke, it was evident that this moment in time was preordained for us to be able to connect and to be able to walk in unison on this journey together. So when we talk about policing and Black mental health and social justice, it's really from a deep spiritual place, and we try to move that toward practical action steps that everyone can take. You can activate yourself in whatever way you feel comfortable with, and Miss Dannielle and I have been really focused on helping people to get activated and stay activated.
And that's really the work of Still Smiling too, right? Connecting people to these resources and creating those bridges of support. And when I heard that the two of you were working together on a podcast, I said, of course they are. This makes total sense to me. I mean, you have these two incredible people with these stories and these experiences that really have something to say. And so can you tell people a little bit about On Tilt, Ms. Dannielle, and why you wanted to work with Julius on this project?
You know, we were just talking, and our chemistry was just incredible when we were, you know, speaking about the issues that were going on in the community. And then we started talking about, you know, not only in the community, but how this relate to a global, if you will, a global pandemic. So we talked about, you know, how just everyone seems to be on tilt. And I kind of took it from a poker game. You know, we have, as people in our race, we have this face, you know, when we get ready to play, you know, our poker face. But for real, we're breaking down on the inside. You know, we have all of this trauma going on and around us in our race, and no answers. But yet we still have to operate. We still have to keep our game face on. We still have to survive. We still have that poker face. So, but yet, do anyone really know that we're on tilt? We're one breath from breaking, you know? So we kind of liked that title. We was like, yeah, you know, we're on tilt. All of this can go either way. And I think that was the beginning of the birth of On Tilt, and how we would like together to address some of the issues that are going on in the mental health community and policing, and why consistently with everything else going on, our Black people are still having these interactions and losing their lives.
And Julius, for you, why is the experience of doing this podcast in this moment, with everything else that is going on in the world, why is this sort of the perfect storm for this moment for you?
It's at a point now where we're starting to see, when we talk about the tilt, right, and the balance, now people are really having conversations about what reimagining public safety and policing look like. So when we talk about crisis intervention models and having the community really own those models and having peers from the community who are trained and social workers to show up now, it's really becoming something that seems like it's a reality. It's already happening in a number of different states. So you couple that with folks who are demonstrating and really being intentional about their focus and the action behind the demonstration. I think we're at a pivotal point where we'll start to see some of these changes happening when it comes to policing, the policy, in the way that law enforcement engage with people who are in need of support, particularly Black people.
I think that makes total sense. And as we wrap up this slightly more than 5 minutes with Ms. Dannielle, I just wanted you to have a moment to share with people what you want them to remember about your son, Jalen, and what your hopes are for the future.
You know, my son was an asset to this life, and he was taken too soon and unnecessarily. I would like for people to understand, you know, policing looks what it looks like in multi environments. You have policing on the street, but you also have policing in places like college universities. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter. You know, we have a system that needs to be addressed. And we need to address this system, the systematic issues around policing that is harming our Black people, which I belong and Julius belong in that race. And we want to be kept safe, whether we are in the street or whether we attend a university. Our lives matter. And it's time for people to understand that mental health is real. Crisis situations are real. We are real, but it should not cost us our lives.
Thank you so much, both of you, for taking this time to share your stories. I know people are going to really be interested in Until. I know I can't wait to tune in. I think that you're both just, change makers, and I'm just honored to have this time with you. So thank you for spending 5 minutes with me.